Hello, friends. Hello, loves. Welcome to another Julia Speaks Love video. I'm so happy that you're here. I'm so excited to be talking about this topic because it's so relevant and so important to all of us, right? And that is 5 ways that I changed my life. And this topic came to me this morning, and it's super important because I believe in sharing resources. I think a lot of times we see celebrities or we see people that we admire and we're like, damn, I really want to be like that, or damn, I really love their life. How did they get there? But a lot of times we don't know how someone achieves the success that they achieve, right? And of course, I am on this improving, living my life best journey with all of you. But there are some things that I have done to dramatically shift my life, and I want to share those. And the theme of this video, the quote that came to me when I thought about creating this video for you was, in order to change your life, you must change yourself. Let me say that one more time. In order to change your life, you must change yourself, honey. And I've heard this quote said in so many different ways by so many different people, but it is so true. If we are to change our lives for the better, if we are to dramatically shift our lives, we have to be willing to make a change. There's a quote by Albert Einstein that says, doing the same thing and expecting different results is called insanity, right? Because if you keep doing the same thing, right? Essentially, if you keep living the life that you've been living, but you want things to change in your life, that's not going to happen, right? That's not going to happen because you're doing the same activities. However, if you dramatically want to shift your life, if you dramatically want your life to change, you yourself have to change. So let's get into it, honey. What are some of the ways that I changed my life? Well, the first way that I changed my life drastically, and this was in 2012, right? So this is about 8 years ago, is I got out of my comfort zone. I got out of my comfort zone, I got out of my character, and I took a huge risk. And I left my job, I resigned from my job, I quit my job as a teacher. Yes. So I had been on a career path in terms of school, to pursue a degree in teaching. And I had been socialized to think that there is a systematic way that you do things in life, and that's just how things happen. That's what my parents taught me. That's what they knew. And so I never thought about anything outside of that. In fact, when I was about maybe 20 years old and I was a junior in high school, I had a junior in college, I had a professor approach me and ask me what I was planning to do after I graduated. And at this point, I remember freezing at that question because I truly had no idea. Like, I had no idea what I wanted to do. I knew the things that I liked to do. I knew that I enjoyed working with people. I knew that I enjoyed talking to and connecting with people. But I really didn't know what I could do with that, And I remember she had this big grin on her face and she said, you should be a teacher. And I froze and I said, okay. I mean, I never thought about that, but okay. And what preceded was a beautiful opportunity, right? Where I was able to get nominated for a fellowship to get more teachers of color in the public school system, especially in New York City. And through this fellowship that I was nominated for, I got funding to, pursue a graduate degree, and it was great, right? It was great. So right after graduating from college, that same day, I remember that crazy experience. I actually had to pack all my stuff up from my dorm and then drive to my graduate school so I could set up at my new apartment there where my graduate school was. It was a very crazy day. But I essentially had no time to really process or think about anything, right? I was just kind of like going. And within that year, after graduating from college, I went to a program in graduate school for a year. And then I got a master's degree and I became a teacher. And I worked in the New York City public school system. And while it was an amazing experience for me and I enjoyed my students a lot, I had never really faced myself. Do you know what that means? I had never really asked myself what I wanted and how I wanted to live my life. And because of that, because I had never really explored what I was passionate about, what I wanted to do, and because I was kind of in this regimented system of, you go to school, you get good grades, you graduate, you get a good job, I had never lifted my head up to be like, wait a minute, what is it that I actually want to do? And what happened, what resulted from that was after teaching for about 4 years, I was miserable. And it had nothing to do with my students. It really had to do with the fact that I didn't really know what I wanted. And because I didn't know what I wanted, I was finding myself filling a void, and I was filling this void by going out every night, drinking alcohol, trying to find fun in things outside of what I dedicated the majority of my time to, which was teaching. And because of that, it was something that was detrimental to my health. I wasn't really thinking about, wow, I'm not happy. Why am I not happy? What is the reason behind that? And so I remember in 2012, it was February, so this month will probably mark with the 8th year. 8 years ago in February, it might have been this day, I woke up. And I remember the night before, I called my mom because I really wanted my parents' approval in life. I really wanted them to approve what I was doing and to be proud of me. And a lot of what I was doing was because of what they suggested that I do. And I remember when I told them I was nominated for a fellowship, they were like, yes, yes. So my whole career path as a teacher had been something that made my family proud, right? And sometimes we do things unknowingly, unconsciously, right, that are more to benefit our family, right, benefit other people, and not ourselves, right? And sometimes we're living life for other people and we don't even realize it. So my dog is over here, so that's why my energy is a little bit distracted. But I had an epiphany the night I talked to my mom. And I remember telling her, Mom, I'm not happy. I don't feel healthy. I don't feel good. I feel like I'm getting into a depression. And I remember explaining that to her and her saying to me, okay, well, just, get through it. Just push through it. You'll get through it. And I said, the reason I'm not happy is because I don't think this is a good fit for me as a teacher. And I remember telling her that, and she's like, well, you'll get through it. And I wasn't really finding any support from my family. And I remember telling my mom, I think I'm going to quit because I really need to figure out what will make me happy, and I'm not feeling well, and I don't like this feeling. I don't like where this path is going for me. And she was so mad, and she was like, "You're crazy. What are you gonna do if you leave teaching? What could you do?" Right? Because I had really shaped my life around this one thing. And I just remember hanging up the phone and knowing that what she was saying, right, all the fear that was being projected on me about what I was going to do, had nothing to do with and was not going to stand up to the drive that I felt internally to know that there was something better out there for me. There was something that I needed to find out and discover about myself, and that required me to dramatically change and shift my life. And so the next day, I wrote a letter to the principal and I resigned. And it was the scariest thing I've ever done, because I had some money saved, but it wasn't boatloads and boatloads of money, but I had a little bit of money saved. And I had never done anything like that before. I was terrified. I was like, okay, now what are you gonna do? Especially when you build your life around thinking, right, of your character as something, like a word, right? Like, I'm this. I'm a teacher. That's who I am. That's the entire makeup of who I am. When you strip yourself of a title and it's just you as a person, you start to think, wow, I have absolutely no idea who I am. But what was powerful about that was, even though I didn't have the support of my family, I did have the support of my partner at that time, who was like, I'll help you. If this is really important to you, I will support you. And, sometimes you just need that one person in your life who is there in your corner to support you. And her support really helped me to say, okay. And I remember after I sent in my resignation, I went to the dining room table, and I remember that she had written me this card, right? And it was so sweet. It just said on the front of the card, "Welcome to the first day of your new life." And it was like the universe was reflecting to me back through that card and through her. And it felt scary, right? Because sometimes when you take a leap, when you take a major risk, when you do something outside of your comfort zone, you feel like out of sorts. Like, what am I doing? What have I done? And I remember that there were times after I resigned that I started reaching out to other teachers frantically, right? Because you'll want to find your comfort again, right? When you leave your comfort zone, when you get out of character, when you do something drastically different, when you get outside of the life that you've known, when you take a big risk, your ego still in the back of your mind telling you like, girl, what have you done? Where are you? Like, what are you going to do with your life? Where are you going to go? What are you going to do? And so I did start frantically, oh, maybe I made a mistake. Oh, maybe I'll reach out to some of the teachers, see if they'll take me back, and I started freaking out. And then I had to remember, because none of those things worked, I had to slow myself down and give myself time to feel it. To feel like, wow, let me feel this raw feeling for a bit. Let me see what this means to me. And let me make a plan. Let me see what I'm going to do next. And that was a dramatic shift in my life. It was a dramatic change. So if you're looking, I'm not saying quit your job. That's not what I'm saying in this video. What I'm saying is sometimes you have to get outside of your comfort zone to really change who you are and what your life is about. And getting outside of your comfort zone might be going to a meeting or a conference or setting up a coffee meeting with someone that you've always admired and always wanted to ask questions. It can be anything that's drastically different, but that you need to do in order to really springboard your life in the right direction. If you want to change your life, you have to change yourself. And for me, the first step in changing my life was taking a risk, right? Having a leap of faith and believing that I was worth it, I was good enough, I was powerful enough, I was capable enough to really springboard my life in a totally different direction. And at the time I had to decide, okay, if I'm not well and this has been going on for a very long time, obviously there's something I need to do. I need to change, right? Because I was doing the same thing over and over and expecting different results, and nothing different was happening. I was just falling more and more into depression. So if you want to change your life, shift that life, baby. Take a big risk. Do something outside of your comfort zone. Get out of character in a positive way and really start to see how changing yourself can change your life. Now, the second thing that I did in terms of changing my life was I started to use my skills instead of my resume. And you might say, what does that mean, right? I started using my skills instead of my resume. And what that means is, for the entire working part of my life, and even before I started working when I was still in school, I was told that you had to have a resume, right? But what I started to discover when I really looked over my resume, because of a lot of us, we create a resume, right? But then we send this resume out when we apply for jobs, but we don't really examine that resume for making sure that it's reflecting not where we've been, but where we are going. Because for me, my resume was reflecting my past, where I had taught, things that I had done in college, and all of those things were great. But I wanted to dramatically change my life, and I wanted to dramatically shift where I was going. And so in order for me to do that, I had to think clearly about my skills. I had to reverse the way that I was thinking, because I didn't want to keep doing what I had been doing in the past, what was listed on my resume. I wanted to make a totally different future, honey. So what I had to do was sit with myself and really create a list of things that I was passionate about, because I had never done this stuff. You know, this whole self-help, personal development, personal growth journey that I'm on, I didn't know anything about that like 8 years ago. I had no idea, nothing. So I started to really write and work on myself and think about, well, what are the things I'm passionate about? What are the things that I love to do? What are the skills that I have that come naturally to me that I enjoy using? And once I started to do that, then I could formulate my life and the things that I dedicated my time to in terms of earning an income around those skills. And when I was going for job interviews, I could market myself in that way, right? I could market myself more about the skills and the things that I knew that I had to offer, the value that I had to offer to wherever I was applying to. And I had a clarity that I hadn't had before. You know, before I was kind of following a path with my head down, walking without looking up, and more just consuming, right? I was consuming information instead of producing, being a producer, understanding the value that I had that I could share with the world. So for all of you, I suggest, if you haven't already, make sure that you are really super clear on the skills that you have, the things that you're passionate about, and where you're going, right? Where do you want to go? What do you want to do? It doesn't matter if you haven't done it yet. It doesn't matter what your resume says, right? That can help you to continue to get jobs that you want to get that are in the same field. But if you want to break out of that field, if you want to really master your skills and figure out how you can best use your talents, it's really important to get clear on your passion and get clear on your skill set, because then you can market it and share it and create value more concretely for others. So don't just use your resume, right? Instead, use your skills and your passion as a way to guide you to your next level, right? We're not living in the past, we're living in the present. What is it that you enjoy now, right now, that you can market and create value in situations that you're working in, and in people that you're meeting, and in networks that you're creating. And that's what's to focus on as you move forward, as you change your life, right? Because you're not looking in your past, you're working on changing yourself, building your skill set, and you're focusing on your future. Okay? The third thing I did, and this was major, honey, for me, was I changed my diet and exercise, right? When you're stressed out and you're unmotivated, it's very hard for you to be super conscious about what you're eating, what you're consuming, like what you're doing with your time, right? Because usually you're so exhausted from giving all the energy to your job that when you get home, all you want to do is drink a wine and have pizza. And that's what I ended up doing almost every night, is ordering from Domino's and having wine. And if you hear that noise in the background, that's my heater. New York City heat, pumping. But yeah, every night I would come home, I would watch something on Netflix or television, and then I would just literally pass out, go to bed, and wake up early the next day and prepare for my classes. And I hadn't really been watching my diet at all, because I was more interested in going for drinks after work so that I could numb the way that I was feeling. I didn't know how to cope with anxiety or depression. The only way I had learned to feel any sort of ounce of freedom or feel any sort of ounce of joy was to go for drinks after work. Because when I went for drinks, when I had alcohol in my system, I felt rejuvenated in the sense that I didn't have to think about, I was literally numb from my job. And I remember it was maybe December 31st, I think. It was December 31st of 2012, about to be 2013. And I went for my physical. And my doctor pulled my chart up. And she said to me, Julia, I've been looking at your chart over the years, and I notice that your weight has drastically been increasing over the last few years. And I'm a little concerned about it. And she showed it to me, and I was like, whoa. Because it had gone up maybe 10 or 20 pounds. And that was something I hadn't even been aware of, right? Because I was just so miserable that I wasn't even paying attention to what I was consuming or how much I was drinking or any of that. And I wasn't exercising at all. So when she told me that, it really made me look within, and it dramatically caused me to shift because it scared me. And I was maybe 27 at the time, and I was like, I don't want to be feeling sluggish. Sometimes you don't even realize you're feeling sluggish, right? But when she said that, I started really thinking about it, and I was like, I don't even know what I eat. I know I don't feel good, but I felt kind of powerless. I felt like a victim at that point. And I was like, well, I don't know what I can do. And I remember going home and processing that information. And from that day, I stopped eating out as much, and I started cooking all of my meals. And in cooking all of my meals, I could really control what I was consuming, what was going into my body. And when I started being more aware of what I was putting into my body and being more health conscious, my energy dramatically started shooting up. It was crazy, And then when you start to take action, right, the universe will meet you at your point of action, right? So I remember writing out what I wanted to eat and starting to keep a food journal and starting to be more aware and more present with what I was eating. And I remember going to this conference around that same time, and I brought my lunch to the conference. And when it was lunchtime, I sat in the conference room because they allowed us to stay in there to eat our lunch if we brought our lunch. And I remember one of the other people that was in the conference came up to me, and she asked me what was I eating and about my healthy lifestyle. And I told her I had just started, being more conscious and aware of what I was eating. And she invited me to go to a kickboxing class with her. And I had never even, I heard of it, but I had never even thought about it. And she's like, it's a community class, it's free, let's go. And for those of you who live in New York, and I'm sure in other places, they offer donation-based, right, courses like yoga or kickboxing or what have you. And they also have community-based classes that often are free of charge. And with donation-based, you can often give like $2, $5, right? You pay what you can. But this was that kind of situation, and it was called through a program called Shape Up NYC. I'll try to put the link in this video. And I went with her the next week to that class, and it was amazing because I was in this community of other people that were also dramatically trying to change their lives. And the first class was super hard for me. It kicked my butt because I was like not exercising at all, and I was tired, but I pushed through. And what helped me, right? Remember earlier I was saying sometimes it just takes one person to be in your corner. What helped me was we were doing this together, right? The woman who invited me, we were doing this together, and we became really great friends from that. And I will always appreciate her for helping me to get on that workout journey. But by changing my diet and changing my exercise, and those things going hand in hand, and being more aware of what I was consuming, I dramatically started shifting my life and changing myself, and in feeling more empowered, feeling more full of energy, and feeling more in control of my emotions, of my life, of the direction of where my life was going. And it's just these simple things, right? Stop eating out, right? It is easier. You can say to yourself, oh, I don't have time to cook my own food, But sometimes we find ourselves wasting time, like saying, I don't have time, because I used to do this, I don't have time to cook my own food, but then I could spend 2 hours, right, watching television, or I could spend 2 hours on my phone looking at Instagram, and I could have spent those 2 hours to make a simple meal like rice and beans and, I don't know, some sort of meat, fish, and I would have enough meals for the week, right? But we can make excuses, but we all have 24 hours in the day, and it's so important to be mindful of how you spend that time. And if you say to yourself what your goals are, and you write them out, and then you allow yourself to see, oh, you know what, I actually do have 2 hours, or I actually have 45 minutes to make this super quick meal, and at least what I can do is make a little bit for dinner and a little bit for lunch, and I can bring like the leftovers for the next day. You will find a way to dramatically shift your life. So changing my diet and changing my exercise routine dramatically started to shift my life and change it for the better, because I felt more empowered, I felt more energetic, and you start to see results. And when you start to see those results, honey, that's when your life starts dramatically shifting, because you start feeling super empowered and super confident about what's going on in your life. So change your diet, right? Be aware of what you're putting in your body, and make sure that you're exercising. Currently, I don't do kickboxing. Currently, the exercise that I try to do, especially when I wake up in the morning, is do some yoga if I can. If not, I try to do a dance workout, and I also have a dog that I love, walking with her every morning. If I have more time, we'll walk through the park, go through the trails. But find ways that you can incorporate exercise into your day, whether that's dancing and moving around, whether that's maybe taking a longer route home if you have to walk home, or if you can walk home. Maybe it's getting off one stop earlier. Maybe it's parking your car if you drive maybe a little bit further up so that you can do more of a walk on your way home, right? There's so many ways that we can integrate and really use our time. So just be aware of how much you can be a major player in your life, and how much you can change it just by shifting the way that you operate every day. The fourth thing I did in changing my life by changing myself is I changed my mindset, from a mindset of victimhood to more of a mindset of empowerment. And honestly, I didn't even realize that I was in a state of victimhood, right? I didn't realize that my go-to was to blame other people or other things that were outside of myself for the way that my life was panning out. And now when I look back on it, I'm like, wow, I can't believe I didn't see that sooner. But when you're in it, right, you're in this situation and you're just accustomed to living that way, it's hard for you to see that. But when I made a decision that I needed to do something to dramatically change my life, I started to write more in my journal. And when I started to write more in my journal, it made me extremely aware of my thoughts and extremely aware of the way that my life was unfolding and the role that I played in that, right? And when I started hearing about things like manifesting, meditation in order to change your life, controlling your mindset, right? Your ego, understanding your ego and its survival mentality. When I started to learn about all of those things and how I could literally script my life for myself, and when I started to write out what it is that I wanted to achieve and watch it unfold in front of me, right? Watch the universe bring opportunities and people into my life that could help me. Wow, I was like, it was amazing. It was amazing. So what I started doing was designing my life by changing my mindset. We are not just here to be pulled through life. We are here as co-conspirators, right? Co-creators with the universe to create the life that we want, right? But if you don't realize that, you will be pulled through life. But the moment that you realize, wow, I can create situations for myself. I can set up things in my life. I can write out my goals and then have the discipline, because that is important, have the discipline to carry it out, right? It's not easy. Change in the beginning, I heard this quote, change in the beginning is super difficult. Change in the middle gets a little less difficult, and change at the end is beautiful, right? Change at the end is beautiful. You look back on your journey and you say to yourself, wow, look how much I've emerged. Look how much I've changed. Look how much amazingness has come into my life. And it's a constant evolution. It's not like, oh, I did one change, okay. It's more, you're the only one in competition with yourself. Everything outside of you, it doesn't matter. It's like that saying, what other people think about you is none of your business, right? It's what is going on outside of yourself. If, like comparing your life to other people's lives, that's just a distraction. The only person you need to focus on is yourself, right? Is you. The only person you need to compete with is you. So start thinking now, today, after you finish this video, even if you want to pause this video and start writing down, what is the life that you want to create for yourself? How do you want to do it? What do you want to do? Once you start writing these things out and asking yourself important questions like, what do I want out of life? You can start to see, I can't create that. And you can also start to see what you need to let go of, right? And that can be physical things you need to let go of, or even mental things that you need to let go of, right? Thought patterns. Because when you start thinking negatively, right, it affects, right? Because thoughts are things and you become what you think about. It can affect what plays out in your life. However, if you change your mindset to a more positive mindset, that also plays out in your life. Now, is any of this stuff easy that I'm proposing? No, definitely not. I have to have talks with myself every single day to reinforce positive thinking in my life. But the important thing is to get in the habit of doing it, right? It takes what? Like a month, 22 days to create a habit, right? It takes 10,000 hours to build a skill. So it's about working at designing your life every single day, right? Whether that means to push yourself, to go outside of your comfort zone, to try something new, to learn how to work out, to learn how to cook, to learn how to drive, to learn a new language, whatever it is that you need to do, but to make steps, to take steps every day to master that, right? For example, yes, this is a new YouTube channel for me, but this is what I love to do. I've been making videos since as long as I can remember. Now, let's say someone's seeing this video for the first time, you might think, oh, wow, she's really comfortable on camera, she's really comfortable talking about herself, or whatever the case is, right? But the thing is, I've worked at it. I've worked at it for a long time, you know, for years, and I'm constantly improving it. But every time I put myself out there again, do I have to pump myself up? Yes. But it's part of me designing the life and creating the life that I want and building on the skills that I love, right? You can design your life for yourself, but it's also about making a plan, right? Mapping it out. It's like a GPS. If you don't put into the GPS where you're going and you just start driving, it could take you anywhere. But if you put into the GPS what your destination is, what your goal is, the life you're designing for yourself, you will get there. Sometimes it's not about the how. That's the universe's job. But in order for you to get there, you have to know where you're going. And I know that sounds so simple, but that really changed my life, because for a long time, I didn't know where I was going. I was just following the crowd, until I picked my head up and realized, wow, I need to map out where I'm going if I want to be the master of my life, right? If I want to create the life that I want to live for myself, if I want to create a passionful, exciting, creative, adventurous life for myself, I am the only one who can create that, right? So change your mindset and start designing your life. And you can do that starting today by making a list of what you want out of your life, and then thinking about the things you can do starting today to get there, right? It's like a sculpture. First it's a big block, and then you got to chip away at it and form it into a beautiful masterpiece. That's what life is about. So start writing out what you want, and then thinking and making a plan as to where to get there. You are your own GPS, honey. The fifth thing that I did is I started waking up earlier. And when I say earlier, I mean, for me, really early. For a long time, I would work late at night, right? Because in creating and designing my own lifestyle, actually started my own business. And what I did was I started planning my own business while I was at work. So I was working as a job developer for a really long time, for about a year. And while I was there, the idea came to me to create a space where women could come and empower each other, right? Where we could network, where we could share ideas. But I thought to myself, well, how am I going to do this? So I started scripting what I wanted. I started making a plan. And in order for me to do this, I had to wake up early so that I could have time to do it. I could have time to think it through. And so I started waking up at 4 a.m., right? 4 a.m. so that I could get to work on time. And I had never really, on purpose, woken up that early at 4 a.m. So when I first started thinking about waking up at 4 a.m., I couldn't grasp it in my mind. I was like, that's so early. How am I going to be able to do this? Because most of the time I would stay up until I got sleepy, and then I would wake up when, the latest possible hour I needed to wake up in order to get to work on time. But when I started being intentional with my time and really valuing myself and valuing my time, I started to think about, okay, well, if I wake up 4 hours before I have to actually go to work, I can accomplish a lot more, because I learned that my brain was fresher in the morning. And it's like when you win the morning, you win the day, right? When you have a lot that you've accomplished way before other people have woken up, or when you have a lot that you've accomplished way before you even get to work and people are just getting to work, but you've already done all this other stuff before you've gone to work, you feel super accomplished. And when you feel super accomplished, it gives you momentum to keep going, right? So I started waking up earlier, and in waking up earlier, it really gave me the space to meditate. It gave me the space to write in my journal. It gave me time to really reflect on how I wanted to use my day. And it allowed me to start planning my own business. And later on, I used the same technique to write my first book, which was called Networking Success Through Simple Steps. And I still wake up, I try to wake up between 4 a.m. and 5 a.m. almost daily, because I find if my body really needs sleep and I don't have a time commitment, I will wake up a little bit later if I need to. But for the most part, I still now to this day wake up between 4 a.m. and 5 a.m. every day. And I use that time to motivate myself, to write out my plans, to really get going for the day. And I promise you, when you start waking up early, sometimes if you don't even know what you want to do yet with that time, but you're just getting yourself in the habit of waking up earlier, you will set yourself up for so much success just by waking up earlier. I promise you. So when I first started waking up early, I was accustomed to waking up maybe like 7 or 8 o'clock. So, a lot of times people are like, well, how do I wake up earlier? Like, what do I have to do? What I did was, over maybe a month or 2 months, I would every week or so set my alarm half an hour earlier. And once I got used to waking up at that time, I would set my alarm the next week half an hour earlier until I got to 4 a.m. And it took a while to get used to. And a lot of times I would set my alarm and hit the snooze, right? But I got accustomed to it going off at 4 a.m. And then I started thinking, well, like, what do I want to do with my time? And for a long time, I would wake up at 4 a.m. and I would watch motivational videos, right? And doing that really helped me to get into a positive mindset. Another thing that I would do is I would listen to a meditation. I would be in my bed still, and I would wake up at 4 a.m., but I would put my headphones on. I would lie back in my bed, and I would just listen to that meditation. It would help me get in a positive mindset for the day. So wake up earlier, right? Change your mindset by designing the life that you want to live. Change your diet and start exercising more. Use your skills, not your resume, for where you're going. And also, get out of character. Get out of that comfort zone. That's going to help you to change your life. My name is Julia. This is another Julia Speaks video. I hope that this has inspired you. Comment below on which one you're going to try today. And I appreciate you as always. Thank you for subscribing. Please, if you haven't subscribed, join our community. This is all about love and positive energy and tips and tools to living your best life. I can't wait to see you on the next video. I look forward to connecting with you in the comments. Have a beautiful, amazing day. I see you and I appreciate you. Enjoy your day. Sending you positive vibes and love. You can change your life by changing yourself. Bye.